Are you ready for the dramatic conclusion of the solo adventure of Sten alone in Deepfall Breach for the Dragonbane rule system? Let's go! Hello there, I am Sacred. This is the Sacred Art of Gaming, where we like to talk all things tabletop role-playing. Today we're talking about the solo adventure within the Dragonbane rule system, alone in Deepfall Breach. It comes with the box set. I enjoyed it. Got some minor gripes, but overall excellent. Loved it. I learned a lot about solo gaming doing it as well. So this is actually the final. This is the final part. This is the Orc's Forge. There are 7 parts here, and they were the iron ladders, a random, sulfurous tunnels, the goblin in the pit, 2 more randoms, molten wastes. That's the last one, even though I said it like there would be another one. The threat here is cultists attacking, surprise. So brief recap. They went to this like Isle of Dead situation where they had to kill 2 very powerful harpy sisters so they could get the enchanted tree sap from the soul tree. That is just one more ingredient that they need to make this, to take the World Breaker shard and turn it against the cultists and this demonic presence in the solo adventure. Engulfer lets them know before they go off on this adventure that they're gonna need a blacksmith. Him and Gorham kind of look at each other and chuckle like, yeah, we've got that covered. We've got 2 blacksmiths. This actually might be a good time to note, I was maybe gonna do a recap of the recap, kind of like an overall breakdown, but there's something weird in the adventure where you go and you rescue Gorham in the beginning, and I don't know if it assumes that you're supposed to like let him go or something, but it sounds like you're supposed to get Gorham again at the end, whereas I've had him this whole time. So I kind of had to make it more about the forge and less about the orc. But minor strange thing that I noticed. So their new mage friend, Rothaniel Hookhat, great name by the way, he's like, I'm good. And Gorham mentions that he notices that he has an ornate key that he's been carrying around on like a necklace. And he's like, just so you know, I know where that goes. And I know that it's actually on the way to where we are going. The Maladuke Forge, I believe. My orc is a little rusty. So it all starts with an iron ladder, as all things do. And this was actually a pretty cool, this is a pretty cool spider fight. So they're going down, creepy noises, of course, and they're going down this super long iron ladder into like seemingly nothingness. They hear the spider starts attacking, and it's really just this big opening with the iron ladder. So they're in this interesting position where they are moving around the iron ladder and trying to keep that in between them and the spider, and then also trying to attack. I wish, it feels like it would have been a part of like something in Daredevil, the way that I pictured it in my mind, where, you know, the spider's trying to web them and they're getting stuck to the ladder, which is then setting them up for attacks, and they're trying to move around the ladder. Yeah, it's a dicey situation, to say the least. And especially when they're using, a lot of them either dual wield weapons or have a shield and a melee weapon. So they're gonna have to choose, and they're choosing one melee weapon. So the spider is doing some damage. Luckily, none of them get hurt too bad. They are eventually, Karathu, I feel like it's always Karathu and Sten. Karathu and Sten are able to gang up on the spider eventually. There's a part where Karathu's almost like riding the spider. He gives up on the iron ladder altogether, and he's on it trying to hit it. The spider's trying to get him off. Sten is chopping some legs away. He's able to plunge his axe into the spider's eye, one of many, just the biggest one that he saw. But now they're all kind of curled up in the spider. Well, not all of them. Karathu, Sten, and the spider, they're all now falling, and Roth is able to feather fall, essentially, Sten and Karathu, so they don't plummet to their deaths. Cool scene, though. Next, we have the excavated mines with toppled pillars and an imminent collapse. The collapse, it's In hindsight, I wish I realized how many there were, and maybe I would have like re-rolled some stuff that ended up with imminent collapses, because that came up a lot. Yeah, they had to make rolls and get out of the area before they took too much damage or get trapped. They ended up being fine with a little bit of teamwork. A little bit of teamwork, a little bit of magic goes a long way. Then we have the sulfurous tunnels. This was rough. They're going through these tunnels and it's already kind of like steamy, hard to really see. And as they're going through there's harpies and they don't know it's harpies immediately. And it's kind of causing them to get separated as they're trying to find the exit. And these jets are, they gotta be careful because they actually do damage. They do damage to them, and they do get hit a few times once stuff really starts to pop off. They're getting hit by rocks and stuff. Eventually, they realize that it is due to harpies, and they start to talk to them and say crazy stuff to them in the shadows. Amidst that, Roth actually panics. And when he panics, he gets separated, and you can just hear just these screeching harpies I'm sure it was driving them nuts. They're slowly making their way, but Roth is not behind them, and the harpies gang up on him and they're just puking on him. The last interaction that I had for him fighting back against the harpies from the perspective of Sten, he just hears like an insidious happiness from the harpies that just makes their heart sink and realize they gotta move on. And if this was not clear, they're pissed about the Raven sisters. This was their opportunity to get some vengeance, and vengeance they did, because Roth did do quite a bit of damage to the Raven sisters when most other people could not reach them. Whew. So, rip Roth. Or is it? Moving on to the Goblin in the Pit. They have a brief fight with some goblins, and there's kind of like this battle scene where it looks like goblins and cultists were fighting. The goblins that are left are trying to fight them. They do find one goblin left in a pit, and the goblin's actually quite nice, quite a nice little gentleman. And he lets them know if they're gonna be successful in what they're going to do, there's actually a secret passageway after they go through yet another maze. There's going to be an ancient workshop. They're going to need the stuff in that ancient workshop if they're going to be successful in what they're trying to do. They try and help the goblin, help him heal up. Unfortunately, he does still die. He just doesn't die right away. That brings us to the confounding maze. And this was random. I probably should have re-rolled it because too many mazes, too many things falling apart. Confounding maze with crumbling terrain and makeshift barricades. And of course, this is where cultists attack. They do resurrect some orcs to help. And they're hitting them with this dangerous purple cloud of magic that's really causing a problem for them in the maze. And the main one actually has this like magical sword that's parrying a lot of the attacks that Karathu was just trying to unload on this maze. He thinks he's got him dead to rights, but this sword just keeps whoosh, whoosh, even behind his back. Eventually, Sten is able to land a well-placed thrown axe strike on the head mage as Anvil is, tugging at his robes. And they move on with their lives. There's these makeshift barricades that they kind of need to work their way through with physical force, sometimes destroying it, sometimes moving it, and then kind of balancing their way through it without like it crumbling and falling apart. They do it though. They get through. Another rando, number 6, ancient workshop with ominous drums and humming obelisk. When they get here, they realize it's full of rare materials, and that Gorham, as far as orcs are concerned, is a master blacksmith. As they're discussing, how to deal with this stuff. And he breaks down what they're going to have to do with the Worldbreaker Shard, because it's a very volatile material. They're still going to need the Magma Forge, the Maladuke Outpost, but there are some things that they need to do here. The Goblin was right, and they take quite a bit of time working this out. Sten's tattoo, which actually is on his forearm, not his bicep, is bothering him, and also Gorham, Gorham was injured pretty badly in the past by the demon. So whenever he got paralyzed, he was fine. But he also is, although he's a master, his sword hand is not great. So between the two of them, they're both great blacksmiths, but they do need each other in this situation. And they create this mold that they will need, or so they believe. So then they move on to the finale, Molten Wastes. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I actually felt like this ended pretty cool. This was like Avengers Endgame level of ending. And I don't know how I did this, but I did. Do you remember Kolga? That shaman, that orc shaman, he's a chaos orc and he's kind of banished to another world, it seems like. And Sten made the deal to bring Gorham and he did not do that. Well, time is ticking. At the beginning of this, so at the Iron Ladders, he had 1 day left. And time is, he's down to, you know, an hour or less at this point. Of course, because plot. So they see the situation and there are cursed orcs that have besieged the Maladuk settlement. Basically look, and Sten is like, okay, I'll ask my fellow orc brethren here, do we just jump right into the battle and fight the cursed orcs, or do we seek knowledge from the local shamans? This is based on some roles that would help them in the defense. And they were like, nah, fight. We're gonna fight. When they go to fight, of course, they realize that good old Bula is leading an attack for these Chaos Orcs. And she's taunting them as all this is happening, that you let me die, especially you, Karathu. And Karathu's struggling like all over again because of this. Which is not ideal, because Karathu is a formidable force on the battlefield that's kind of being taken off. It's like losing an Achilles. But at some point in the fight, she hits him with this purple lightning. And I think in that pain, that's where it kind of snaps Karathu out of it. They're struggling to fight her. They're struggling to fight these other cursed orcs and help push back the assault. But that's when it snaps. He snaps. It all comes into place for him. And that is that this is not Bula. This is exactly what Gorham and Sten has been trying to scream at him this whole time. And he just unleashes. He just goes full on, like if this was Diablo, he'd be doing the whirlwind barbarian move right now, right? And it just gets to a point where he takes her down and her face is now just in the mud. And he just continues to stomp on it as she just keeps saying evil shit to him. And he says, no, you were not Bula. I said goodbye to Bula. And then poof, lights out for Bula. Minor victory whenever Sten, his arm then starts to glow and he starts to agonize in pain. All of the cursed orcs immediately stop, and it's as though Kulga, who doesn't appear to be on this plane of existence from what they can tell, he's now talking through these cursed orcs that kind of have this like purple aura about them through the eyes and stuff, probably like a little bit of smoke. And he's letting them know that, you thought that you won. This is everything that I've needed. I've got everything I need right here. I already have a replacement. As Sten's arm begins to glow and you're starting to see the chaos take over him. Gorham looks over to him and he's like, do you trust me? We've been through so much. Do you trust me? Yeah, we gotta do something. So he grabs Sten's axe and he's like, I gotta take the arm off. And Sten's like, what? And he says, the arm, it's coming off. And he goes to chop once and he doesn't quite get it all the way. He's got the weak sword hand right now. So he goes to do it again and Sten is like trying to stop him, screaming in pain. And he's got his hand on the axe, the handle of the axe. Gorham punches him in the face and continues to fall through with the swing, taking off the arm, and now Sten's the curse, the chaos that's emanating through his arm appears to be separated from him. It doesn't, you know, like a zombie bite. It didn't get into his system. The Chaos Orcs collectively are like, no! And they kind of come together almost like a magnet, or just like a bunch of like tiny little magnets, and they form together into this like cursed flesh golem. And now it is running rampant. They do what they can to provide first aid to Sten, while Karathu is seemingly fighting this chaos flesh golem kind of on his own. And he's good, but he ain't that good, so it's not going well. Gorm and Sten, they head over to the forge and they're like, all right, we gotta do this. It's now or never. We've got to take the World Breaker shard, and they go over to the Malduke forge. And we need to create the World Breaker weapon, right? But then it dawns on them what they thought they needed to create may not be what they initially thought. And Gorm's like, I have an idea. And he starts, you know, ting, 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 starts doing his blacksmith thing, right? And he, of course, this is taking time. Karathu, he's getting slammed into pillars, smashed against walls, and he's doing some damage against this flesh golem, this chaos flesh golem, but it's just too much. It's too much. And eventually it just gets its hands on Karathu and just keeps slamming him into stone. And Karathu just says, I mean, nobody else is really there to hear him, but he says, I'm coming, Bula. I'm coming, until he just keeps getting smashed. And the golem doesn't care, just even though he's gone, just keeps creating orc paste out of him. But Sten now realizes what Gorm was able to fashion for him. He took the World Breaker shard and he turned it into a arm, like a gauntlet. From here, anyways, not the full, not like Jax from Mortal Kombat, but just from here. Puts it on his arm, and I mean, it's a fantasy world. He, you know, immediately has feeling in the hand, I get in the metal, and he's able to move it around and stuff. It's got the World Breaker shard in it, for God's sakes. So basically just took the World Breaker weapon stats and applied it to that hand. Oh, and actually, it's worth noting, very important, this is huge. There's a little bit of time, they still need more time even though Karathu's dead, and the golem comes rushing towards the forge. Anvil, oh, sweet little doggy Anvil, is able to kind of put himself in between the forge and the golem so that they can complete their work. And Anvil, luckily, my goodness, luckily, he's pretty nimble, so he actually was able to avoid a lot of the damage that the golem was doing and keep its attention long enough for Sten to grab his axe, grab his hand, and then go to work. And with a couple axe strikes and then one just massive punch to the golem kind of flies back a little bit into the molten lava and just starts to melt. And you just hear Kulga screaming out stuff through all these combined chaos orc bodies at them. But don't really have to worry about them right now. Now do they? I do want to read the exact thing Engulfer says here. But the orcs rejoice. Engulfer, Stone Gaze, of course, he's there now. He rejoices as he does. So Engulfer says, with a rare smile creasing his lupine features, just as I foresaw. The old wolfkin taps his stone eye with a clawed finger. The eye never lies. Mostly. But I've dire visions of troubles elsewhere, he continues, and ye bear a mighty weapon against the demon menace. What say ye? Up for a journey? And I was like, hell yeah, let's continue with the other Dragonbane stuff. I don't know if he would be too strong. Maybe not. That actually might be what he needs, honestly, to be level for those adventures, especially with solo. But yeah, man, so that was the story of Sten Travson alone in Deepfall Breach. What did you think? I definitely had some highs and lows in there, but yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I'm sure it's not nearly as exciting with the recap as if we were playing it, but with future adventures, you know, hopefully we can be together in the ride. If you're digging the vibes, loving the content, don't forget to like, subscribe for future content, share it out if you think it's got value for other people, and comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Always take some time to play, create, and have fun. This has been Sacred with Sacred Art of Gaming.